So it's been a while since I've made a video about the Sony ZV-E10 Mark I, especially about S-Log2, but I just had to make this video because honestly, I was grading the footage from that camera in a wrong way in DaVinci Resolve. So today I want to show you the proper way, so hopefully you'll be able to get better results with your Sony ZV-E10 Mark I. But also at the same time, this is only applicable if you're using my S-Log2 settings, which is ITU 709 matrix, color mode, and S-Log2 for the gamma. If you're using S-Log3 or the default S-Log2 settings, this video is not going to be relevant to you. All right, so I have here a couple of clips from the Sony ZV-E10, all shot with my settings, obviously, ITU 709 matrix and then S-Log2. Now here are my project settings. I'm using DaVinci with Gamut Intermediate for the timeline color space and Rec 709 Scene for the output color space because I'm grading on a Mac display. And now let me apply my power grade to this shot, the Roma power grade. If you are interested in this power grade, link is going to be down below. It is only $10 and it works with pretty much any camera out there. All right, so the mistake that I was doing for a long time is with the input device transform. So I assumed that because I was using Rec 709 for the color space or color mode, I should also use the Rec 709 for the input gamma, basically. So in the past, what I would do is I would go to the input color space and I would set Rec 709 in here. And then for the input gamma, I would also set Rec 709. And I would always get this flat image that I would afterwards have to fix with like contrast and saturation adjustments. This is not the proper way to do it. Why? Because these are not the settings that I was shooting with in camera. I was using Rec 709 for the color space or color mode in camera, but for the input gamma, I was not using Rec 709. I was using S-Log2. So in here, instead of using Rec 709, you should use S-Log2. And as you can see, the image becomes alive and it looks significantly better than if I was to use Rec 709 in here as well. The difference is incredible. It's actually a big difference. And because of this, like I said, this was a huge mistake when making the tutorials and also when grading the ZV-E10 footage, basically. So this is what you need to use for the input color space and input gamma if you're using my Sony ZV-E10 Mark I S-Log2 settings. And then basically the color space transform takes me to DaVinci with Gamut Intermediate because that's my timeline color space. And then my output device transform, or in my case DRT, I'm using a custom DRT from JP2499. Link is going to be down below, but it is also available within my power grade. But this TRT takes me from DaVinci with Gamut Intermediate to my output display color space of Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. And here you can use the color space transform tool if you want to, but I would recommend at least experimenting with this DRT because it produces significantly better tone mapping results. And now let me just show you how beautifully this image grades with these settings. I'm gonna go to this exposure and contrast node, adjust the exposure a bit because it's a bit too bright. And then I'm gonna go to the white balance, adjust the white balance, maybe something like so. It's very hard to see, honestly, the display because I have a big light source in here. And then I'm gonna also adjust the saturation, just like so. And honestly, maybe also I'm gonna reduce the exposure a bit more to make it a bit more moody. And I think I'm done. Look how beautiful this image looks like without really doing that much. And that's mainly because I used the correct settings inside the IDT node, basically. Let me show you how it works with a different clip. I'm gonna go in here, select my Roma power grade just to start from scratch, and it looks awful, as you can see. I'm gonna go to the IDT, and in here set this to Rec 709, and then the gamma, again, not Rec 709, I'm gonna use in here S-Log2. And as you can see, it looks fantastic, but I do need to adjust the exposure a bit. It's a bit too dark. And then I also need to adjust the white balance, maybe something like this. Also, maybe I'm going to adjust the skin tones. They're a bit off, something like so. And look how beautiful and natural this image looks like with a couple of clicks within DaVinci Resolve, basically. Here is another example for you. I'm just going to apply the grade from this shot to make it a bit easier, right? As you can see, looks fantastic. I'm going to slightly reduce the exposure, right? Like so. And honestly, I'm kind of done. It looks really clean and the results are just incredible considering It's just a couple of clicks, and that's basically it. And finally, here's a clip with skin tones, which is very important, right? Going to again paste the grade from here. Looks kind of awful, but I'm going to reduce the exposure. So about here, and then the white balance is definitely off. I'm going to reset the white balance in here and just kind of eyeball the white balance according to my skin. It looks somewhat correct. Maybe slightly more reduce the exposure, something like this, and look how beautiful this image looks like, right? Everything looks clean, beautiful. And just for comparison again, let me go to the IDT node and in here set the gamma to Rec 709 instead of S-Log2, and look how different the image looks like, which is why this was the wrong way to grade footage from the ZV-E10 Mark I. Like, this looks significantly better. Maybe the contrast is a bit strong, so I can kind of reduce the contrast a bit, just like so. Looks beautiful. All right, so this is basically it for today. I just wanted to share this with you in case if you're still using the ZV-E10 Mark I and using my S-Log2 settings, definitely use the S-Log2 input gamma instead of Rec 709 because as you saw, it makes a huge difference. So hopefully you find this video to be informative and useful. I am going to leave a link down below for my power grade if you are interested. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, and whatever, also ask them down below. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.